Good morning, Chavirim. We are in Masechet Pessachim. We are in Masechet Amoud yomi. Today's Amoud is Ayin Vav Amoud Bet. The last two words on Ayin Vav say Amar Rav, and we turn the page. Said Rav, the greatest of the Amoraim. Basar Shechuta Shamen. If you have a kosher, which is called Shechuta, a kosher piece of meat that is fatty, it's really oily, it's not like juice inside, it's not kachush. Kachush is there's nothing inside, it's so dried out. Something fatty, when it can go into the air, when it goes into a hot place, the steam could come out of it. What is steam? It's liquid that becomes, it becomes
vapor.
Vapor. Very good. It becomes vapor. So you could have the same thing when you have basar shechuta shamen shetzalo im basar nivela kachush. You put in the oven. They're not touching each other. There's no touching here whatsoever. But you have a fatty, good, juicy piece of kosher meat, and you put in the same time a very lean, what's called kachush, no liquid, no moisture whatsoever, of a nevela, a non-kosher. And you put them in the oven at the same time, says Rab Asur. You just made your kosher meat pasul. They have not touched. And what is the reason? They actually fatten up each one. And Rashi says what happens. The moisture of the fatty one becomes vapor. It goes to the one that is kachush. I wonder what word they have for kachush over there. A lean one, I guess. The one that is lean, and it basically is able. The moisture of the fatty one is able to get the moisture out of the lean one. It's able to go in and like sort of awaken, and its moisture basically goes inside of it. I think that's what it means. The moisture of the fatty one goes into the lean one, and that moisture then it becomes basically non-kosher. And then that moisture of the non-kosher one now comes back out and goes back into the original kosher one. So now you had a kosher piece of lamb, and you had a piece of pig, and a guy put it in the same oven. It's not touching anything. There's nothing dripping. But this is called zeya. It's called the vapors, and the vapors, according to Rav, is like mamashut, and it makes it pasul. That Levi says, Levi amar afilu basar shechuta kachush, and Levi goes the opposite. Even if the kosher one is not fatty, it is lean. Shetzalo im basar nivela shamen, and the nevela, the non-kosher, is fatty, that it has a lot of moisture and a lot of zeya. Mutar, it's kosher. Not even, he's going even a step further, that it's nothing. Why? Maitama, recha, I'm sorry, I said zeya before, but it's not zeya, it's recha. Zeya is very different. Zeya is when liquid became vaporized. That's already different, that's a big shayla in halacha. But here it's just called the smell. It's not really vapor, it's not really liquid, it was sort of like just moisture, like a little bit of fattiness inside the animal. The reicha be'almahu ve'reicha lamitai, and reicha is nothing. According to Levi, it is nothing. The Gemara says, Avid Levi uvda. Not only Levi thought it in theory, Levi actually gave up sak. Be'resh galuta begedi vedvar acher. So you know that the resh galuta was the president de la communauté. It was like, imagine a person from the family of David HaMelech, that he was basically the leader of the community in terms of the governing of the Jewish community in Bavel from the government, from the kings over there, whoever it was. They gave over this leadership, and they had a certain self-governing. And you see many times in Halacha that we speak about the Resh Galuta because they were close to the big Rabbanim, and their Pessachim they would get from the Rabbanim. So Levi actually said, it says that exact case, non-kosher and kosher were cooked together. The flavor, the smell, the reyach of the non-kosher one, fatty as it was, that goes into the kosher one, does nothing. And that in fact is the halacha that we follow Levi. Reicha is nothing. Reyach is actually mutar. By the way, just to tell you how strict Rav was, because Levi, how strict Rav was and how lenient Levi was. Rav says, even if the non-kosher is lean, there's nothing inside. The kosher is fat. It's going to go in, the smell is going to go into the non-kosher, to the lean one, and it's going to take out the smell over here. It's going to bring it back to the kosher. That is a problem. And Levi says the opposite. Even if the kosher one is lean, and the non-kosher is a fatty shamen one, Still, the smell that's going to go out is nothing. It's not going to affect at all. This is the source of a famous halakha that they learn a lot in Yorediyah, which is called Reicha Lav Mimtai. So just smell of something is nothing to make it pasul.
Is that the one we put in the microwave, like fish together?
Yeah, well, microwave could be a lot of different because, by the way, we're always talking about here that there's no mamashut. Microwave, you got a lot of splashes over there, a lot of dirt, and the buildup sometimes. And we're not talking about liquid over here. Liquid is much more problem because liquid becomes zeya. It becomes vapors that are different types. Here we're just saying that the smell of the animal. It's true, it's fatty, but even a fatty one, we're saying it's nothing with living. It's nothing. It's just smell. Smell is nothing. But liquid that turns into vapor, it's like droplets. Droplets is really something. It's the mamashut. The mamashut of the milk that you boil it up and it goes up on the ceiling of the microwave and then it comes back down in the meat. Well, it could be a big problem. So microwaves are problematic. Some say you can kasher them, some say you can't kasher them. Rabbi Vaji was the opinion we kasher them. There's a lot of wood written on this because when you open them up, you feel a lot of junk in the back. Anyways, if you want to use a non-kosher microwave, what they say to do is you put it in Ziplocs. Let's say you're in a place and you want to use a microwave that's not kosher. So you can actually put your food double Ziplocked, meaning one open Ziploc. So you put the whatever it is, you put your apple inside. I don't know, what do you put in the microwave? A piece of chicken? You put a piece of chicken in the open like this, but if it's open, then and then you put in another one on the other way. So there's enough, it's not going to explode the bag because they're both open, so there could be, but no zay is going to get inside, and therefore that's the say to use it. But, and we could kasher it if b'diavad. Better to have two separate ones, ideally, either way. We're seeing over here that's a little bit different of reicha. Reicha is where they're both in the same oven, and the smell goes from one to the other. Meitiv the Gemara challenges this. En sonin shtei psachim ke'echad. We have a braita that seems to challenge the opinion of Levi. And the braita says that we do not roast two different Pessachim, Korban Pesach, in one oven. What is the reason? Ke'echad, mipnei hatarovit, because of a mixture. Don't forget that if you own a Korban Pesach, you have to eat it because you were signed up for yours. I need to eat mine, I was signed up for mine. I cannot eat yours and you cannot eat mine. If we did that, we didn't do a mitzvah. So if you put two Korban Pesachs into the oven at the same time, what could happen? You're going to take out the wrong one, you're going to eat the wrong one. Or is that what it is? Or is it because of the smell? Here the Braita says, don't put them in. Why not put them in? It says ta'arovit. My love, what is ta'arovit? My love, ta'arovit ta'amim ukashya lelevi. Maybe what it means over here in the Braita, it's a ta'arovit of the smells. I'm going to take mine. I'm going to put a sign in mine. You're going to take yours. But inside the oven, the smells went from one to the other. Now it turns out that I'm actually eating part of Yonathan's Korban Pesach because of the flavor that went in mine. And he's eating part of mine because of the flavor that went in his. Isn't that what it is? And it's a Kushan Levi. Because Levi said there's no problems of flavors. The Gemara says, no. No, that's not the problem. The problem is, lo mipnei ta'arovit gufin. Like I said at the beginning, we're scared that each one's going to take back the wrong animal. I'm going to take Natan's, and Natan's going to take mine. Achiname mistavra. And actually, this does make sense. And the reason it makes sense, because if you look at this, the end of that same braita, you're going to see something that only makes sense according to the way we explained it. Midekatane seifa, afilu gedi vitale. Two different types of animal. A gedi is a young cow. It's a young goat. And a tare is a young. Tell me, help me out, a long lamb. So you have a goat and a sheep, a male and a female. So you cannot cook them both in the same oven. Even those two. What does it mean? Even those two. I ask you a question. Does it make sense to say don't put two psachim in the oven? For sure, don't put two goats together. And even don't put two sheep together. And don't put a sheep and a goat. Does that make sense if it's flavors? There's no reason to say that. This doesn't, because flavors is asur even if it's goat to goat. It makes sense to say we're scared of switching the bodies. We're for sure scared of switching a body if it's the same goat and another goat. But even you might think we're not scared of switching a body. When you have a goat and I have a sheep, you might think we're not going to switch. Even that is a problem to switch. So we see that this makes more sense according to Levi and not according to Rav. If you say that the problem is that we're going to switch the bodies, that's why even, you might not think that's a problem, even that's a problem. Because I don't know what the animals look like. I'm not so, what, you don't realize it's two different, it's a male, female, or whatever, I don't know these things. Okay, even that you make them a problem, don't do that. אלא היא אמר מפני תערובת טעמים, מני גדי ומתנה. Madi gedi v'tareh, madi gedi v'gedi. If it's only a problem of flavors, so there's no difference. You don't have to say even this. What do you mean even this? Who cares what type of it is? Once the flavors switch, of course it's asur. Even sounds like you might not think this is asur, even this is asur. But if
they're both kosher.
Yeah, they're both kosher. But the problem is that you have to eat yours that you were signed up on, and I need to eat mine that was. So if I eat mine that has your flavor in it, it's a problem. Now the only works if it sounds like something we would not have known, and if it's flavors, of course we didn't know that. It doesn't matter what type of animal it is. So therefore, the answer for sure is talking about Ella mai al kochayich mipnei ta'arovet gufin. We are without a doubt talking about ta'arovet of the bodies. It's taking the wrong animal. Hu de'asu. Aval ta'arovet tamim share. But the flavors from this braita is mutter. Now from this braita, it sounds to be a kusha on Rav. Because what did we just say? Don't cook two animals together because you might switch the bodies. But I see that you're not concerned with switching flavors. And Rav said that flavors that switch because flavors that interchange because of the smell, that's a problem. So this is a kusha on Rav. Leima tiet yufta de Rav. This be a problem on Rav. Amar Rabbi Yirmiyah, acha b'may skinan, kigon shitzalo b'shtei kderot. You know, we're talking about here a whole different. You're missing words in the Braita. You're missing explanation of the Braita. The Braita is talking about that we put the Korban Pesach in two different pots. The Gemara doesn't accept that. B'shtei kderot sal kadatcha. Ema ke'en shtei kderot. It's like two kderot, meaning it's one oven, but there's a lot of ashes in the middle. One oven, but there's a lot of coals in the middle. So I put one over here and one over here, but there's a wall in between them. So there's no exchange of smells. So here Rav accepts that the Braita is talking about that I have one oven with, two compartments. Don't put two Korban Pesachs in one oven, even if they have a separation of a wall between them. And what is the reason? What is the reason? We'll see. And I can't shtei kderot. Here's what it means. We're at the En sonin shtei psachim kechad mipnei ta'arovet. My ta'arovet tamim. So he re-amends the Mishnah. And the Mishnah should be read. Don't cook two Korban Pesachs in the oven because of flavors. That's how Rav will learn it. V'afilu ke'en shtei kderot. And even if it's like they're in two pots, that there's no exchange of flavors because it's one oven that has a wall between, so flavors will not be exchanged. Deleika ta'arovet te'amim asu mishum ta'arovet gufin v'afilu gedi v'tareh. You still might switch up the bodies, and even if it's two different animals, that is a sheep and a goat and a lamb. One more time. Rav says that smell is an issue, and smells that interchange if you cook something in the oven together is asur. Levi says it's not asur. There's a Braita that seems to support Levi, but Rav will explain it his way. The Braita says that you cannot put them in one oven because you might mix. What are you going to mix? Well, it says even a sheep and a goat. What are you going to mix? Obviously the bodies. So you're going to take the wrong one out. Rav says no. Don't put them in the same oven because the flavors might mix. And if they're in oven where flavors don't mix or the smells don't mix because of the wall in between them, still don't do it. And even if it's two different animals, so Rav will tell you that if you put in the same oven, you just made asur your Korban Pesach. According to Rav, if you put a sheep and a goat even two different goats, two different sheep in the oven, well, my flavor, the smell of mine went into yours, the smell of yours went into mine. I'm eating yours, you're eating mine. Pasun. What about if the smells didn't interchange? Rav also agrees that if you have a wall in the middle, no smell interchange. Still, I might take out the wrong one and eat it. What about if you have a goat and I have a sheep? You still make a mistake. So we don't want you to cook them at the same time in the oven. The Gemara continues. Amar Rav Mari, Ketanae. Okay, now we have already, really Rav and Levi, don't forget that they are Amoraim. Amoraim is 1700 years ago, starting in Bavel and Eretz Yisrael. The time of the Tanaim was about 2,000 years ago, and whenever and Rav and Levi are both Amoraim. Amoraim cannot make up new halachot if they already existed in Tanaim. If they exist in the Tanaim, so they can not cholek on them, but they can choose an opinion. So, for example, in the last generation there was Rav Avad Yosef and Rav Chacham Ben Zion. So today, if there's Rav Yitzhak Yosef and there's Rav, the son of Rav Ben Zion of Shul, they can take the opinions of their fathers. But they're not going to make up new things. They're just taking an opinion. Rav and Levi we're going to assume, like older opinions. This is not a new machloket. This is an older machloket between Rabbi Meir, Rabbi Yossi, and Rabbi Yehuda, who they were Tanaim, Rabbi Meir ben Anes, Rabbi Yehuda ben Rilai, Rabbi Yossi ben Yoez, Rabbi Yossi, I'm not sure what Rabbi Yossi was. Could be Rabbi Yossi ben Chalafta. Yeah, very good. And so they're following this. So could we say that? So now we're going to quote a Mishnah that actually this new machloket, this machloket over here is actually an older machloket. Yes, in fact it is true. So Kita'amar Rav Mari Kitanae Harodeh Pat Hama Unadnan Pe Chavit Shetruma Al Pi Shetruma. So now you have a hot bread. And rodeh means that they used to put the breads on the wall of the ovens. So you have a nice oven and you stick a bread inside, right? So rodeh is to take down the bread. You take down a nice, good, hot bread. And where are you going to put it down? It's too cool. You have a bucket over here. You have a barrel. And the barrel could be open, it could be closed, and you put the hot bread on this wine over here. But what wine was it? You made a mistake. It's truma wine. This is only for the Kohen. The thing is, will the vapor, the smell of this wine go into the bread and make it, if you're not a Kohen, you can't eat the bread anymore? That's the question. So look what it says. If you do that, Rabbi Meir Oser, Rabbi Meir says it's forbidden. Rabbi Yehuda Matir, Rabbi Yehuda says you're allowed to eat the bread. Rabbi Yossi Matir b'shel chitin ve'oser b'shel seorim. Rabbi Yossi says, well, depends. If it's bread made out of wheat, it's kosher. If it's bread made out of barley, it's not kosher. What's the reason? Because barley has the property of pulling out the smell. So what do we see over here? So the same sort of thing. We're talking about reach over here.
Absorbs.
What's that?
Absorbs.
The barley absorbs according to Rabbi Yossi. So if you put the bread on the open one, it absorbs the smell. But if it's going to be wheat doesn't absorb. So my lav kitanaehi. What do we find over here? In the Tanaim, Machloket, Rabbi Meir, Rabbi Yehuda. Rabbi Meir said you can't eat the bread because the smell is tam. So this flavor of wine, truma, that went into your bread. And according to Rabbi Yehuda, no, that smell is nothing. So can we say that Rav goes like Rabbi Meir and Levi goes like Rabbi Yehuda? The Gemara says, Levi vadai taneh. Yes, that's how Levi will explain it. Because you see clearly that according to Rabbi Meir Bananes, Recha is miltayir. What is happening over here? There's no liquid that went into the wine never went onto the bread. It's only the smell. The heat that's of the bread is going to absorb the smell of the wine. It's going to make it a soup. Does Rabbi Meir hold this? Yes, absolutely. Rabbi Meir holds this. So Levi's going to say, yeah, Rabbi Meir holds, but I go with like Rabbi Yehuda. So when Levi said the halakha is that Recha is nothing, I go like Rabbi Yehuda Bar Ilai. He's on the way to Tzfat. He's on the side. They have a kol chatzot there. I heard over there now. You can stop in on the way and say Tefillah by Rabbi Yehuda Bar Ilai and tell him that you learned in the Gemara his things, and he's gonna be machziku tova. He's gonna do you a favor because you're learning his mishnayot. Now, according to Rav, will Rav also say that he goes like Rabbi Meir? Again, Rav is saying asur. Levi saying mutar. This is a machloket in there. So Rav, who are you going like? Rav will say, I'm going like Rabbi Meir asur. And Levi will say, I'm going like Rabbi Yehuda mutar. Not necessarily. According to Rav, le Rav nema tanai, amar lecha Rav. Rav could answer you no. De kule alma recha miltai. No, that's not true. Even Rabbi Yehuda, you didn't understand Rabbi Yehuda. It is, the smell is flavor. Why? Didn't you know how to explain that Mishnah according to Resh Lakish? Bepat chama, and he explained it like this. Where is that machloket? Only on one case. If it is hot bread, v'chabit petucha divrei akol asur. If it is an open barrel and it is hot bread, everybody says asur, even Rabbi Yehuda. V'pat sonenet, if it is cold bread, v'chavit megufa, if it's cold bread and a closed bucket, for sure it's mutar. Divrei akol mutar. Lo nichliku ela bepat chama v'chavit chatuma. What if you have a closed barrel but a hot bread, or pat sonenet v'chavit petucha, on an open barrel, cold bread in an open barrel? That's the machloket. So you see, that's the machloket Rabbi Yehuda and Rabbi Meir according to Rav. It's very strict. We just repeat this one more time. Rav will tell you, we have a bucket, okay? We have a barrel. The barrel has wine. What did the guy do? He took out bread. The bread could be hot, could be cold. the wine could be open, could be closed. He puts it out. We have a three-way machloket. Rabbi Meir says non-kosher, you can't eat the bread. Rabbi Yehuda says kosher, you can eat the bread. And Rabbi Yossi says it depends. If it's wheat, if it's barley. If it's barley, you're no good. If it's wheat, you're good. But Rav explains you don't know how to explain that Mishnah. It's not talking about hot bread in an open barrel. That's not at all what we're talking about. Hot bread in an open barrel, everybody agrees it's reicha. Everybody. The machloket is only on cold bread in an open barrel. Or hot bread in a hot bread in a closed barrel. It seems to be that even a hot bread, it's able to get the flavor out even from the closed barrel. Maybe there was some small holes over there. Maybe you'll tell me what it says. That's the machloket. So according to Rav, everybody holds that reicha is miltahi. The only thing is, if it's cold bread on an open barrel, then we could be lenient according to Rabbi Yehuda. And the opposite, if it's a hot bread on a closed barrel, we could be lenient. But if an open barrel, hot bread, for sure. And what are we talking about in an oven? In an oven, you have here non-kosher and you have kosher. You have korban pesach. That's for sure hot. That's the same as hot bread and an open barrel. That's what he says here. So that is exactly veha. Nami kipat hama v'habit petucha damya. And this, when we're talking about our oven over there, that the smells give over, that's for sure the same as a hot bread and an open barrel. So therefore, what do we have over here? We have a really big machloket between Rav and Levi. And Rav says that smell is something and it makes asur your food, and Levi says it's nothing. And the halacha, in fact, is like Levi. If you want, Rashi says that the halacha is like Levi, even though we usually go like Rav. The halacha is like usually like Rav and Isurim. In every Isur v'heter, kosher and pasul and all that stuff, that we usually go like Rav. But since it's also there's a machloket of Rava and Abaye, and we know the halacha is like Rava. Since there's Rava and Abaye also have that machloket, a later generation of Amamoraim. So we're actually going to go like Rava. The halacha is like Rava, holds like Levi, and the halacha is Reicha Lav Mitahir. That being said, it's only B'diavad. Look at the next Gemara, amazing. Tani Rav Kana, Bered Rav Hinana. Rav Kana, the son of Rav Hinana, said, Saba, Pat Sha'afa'a Insli. If you take bread and you put it and you bake the bread at the same time, this happens all the time, and you bake it at the same time that there is meat in the oven. So you're roasting some meat and you're baking bread. There is no flavor, there is no splashing. There is no touching. It's only smell. Betanur as betanur. What's the halacha? Asur leochla bekutna. You cannot eat it with cheese. Sometimes you're going to say, baked in a milk and a fleshik oven. Sometimes I bring a cookie over here, put it downstairs. My wife will tell me, bake in a fleshik oven. I want to take some mizunot she made, baked in a fleshik oven. Baked at the same time. Don't eat it with cheese. It's not, why don't eat it with cheese? Why not? There's two ways of looking at it. Either Rav Chinana, Rav Kana says, I hold like Rav, and it's reichas asu, or it's a chumrah. It's a chumrah means yes, we're not going to be oseh. But now, and you're not throwing this bread in the garbage. Why? Because you can eat it with meat. Just here, lichat chila, to go eat it with cheese, why do you need to do that? The bread is still edible. It's not going to go to waste. So it's true that we're posek, that reicha is lamitahi bediavad, according to this. Bediavad, if you did it, we don't make asur your bread. And for example, if a guy actually did eat it with cheese, he's not going to get a chatat. But the chatchila, to go ahead and eat it with cheese, we don't let you do it because there's still a chashash, there's still a smell over there.
At the same time.
Yes, at the same
All
time.
together.
Yeah, but I'll tell you where
Let's
this...
say you take the cookies and you put in the milk.
But after it's okay, you don't become fleshik if you eat.
You do not become fleshik, very good. You do not become fleshik. However, but many times also, yeah, you're exactly right. I thought you were asking me something else. If I cooked it in a milchik oven or a meat oven. So I have a meat oven and I cook the cookies inside. I cook the bread inside. Am I meat if I eat that bread? Doesn't seem like your meat. However, don't forget that many times the ovens are dirty. They're not always clean. And especially if you had like splashing from a past cooking, and that splashing could come, let's say you have some condensed liquid. That liquid could become droplets and go now inside of it. Usually it's okay, because even if there is 60 times more the amount, the droplets that come in, but in general we try not to do that. In general, always a good idea to cover the things that you're cooking, or to have a clean oven, or to not eat it with the other type. But you're right.
24 hours, not if you wait for it.
24 hours doesn't work for mama shoot. Anything that is real food, even if it's from yesterday, there's no thing is 24 hours. 24 hours is the bliot. Inside the pan, anything that goes inside is potent for 24 hours. For example, if you cook today meat in your pan, and tomorrow, right now, and an hour later, your kid by accident takes and cooks pasta with cheese. what happens? The flavor of the meat is still potent. It goes into your pasta cheese. It can make it a soup. You can't eat it. But if this happens all the time, somebody calls, somebody used the wrong pan to cook something milky. So first question you can ask yourself, when was the last time it was used? If it was last used more than 24 hours, so we say that every flavor inside the meat became pungent. It became putrid. It's not good anymore. It's called notentam nifgam. Therefore, the flavor that's going to go, it's nothing. You're allowed to eat the pasta, but you have to kasher the pan.
How'd you kasher?
Haggadah or libun, however they used it. Okay, let's go one more thing the Gemara says. Very interesting. The Gemara says, Ahu binita. Ahu binita. A fish. You know what's binita? Fish.
בנית מיכל פעם.
Binita is a fish, and fish is tzaddik. So binita is tzaddik, and also there's no ayin hara on the fish, and they have piruvu, and they're all the source of shefa. Ken yeh the kora binitas. So there was.
Latam Tzadik.
Huh?
Latam Tzadik.
Piruvu, parnasa, and zivug, and all the good zachim. Besud the Torah. You know that Rabbeinu, when he wanted to be mamshich yeshua, he would be mamshich through the Torah he would learn. In the Torah that you learn, if you can bring out the yeshua, the pshat in the Gemara, that's the real way of having yeshua, because all the yeshua is from the Torah. I remember somebody came to the Taz once, and she wanted a bracha. He said, "What do you want from me? How can I do something?" And she kept bothering for a bracha. I said, "I don't know what you want. What am I supposed to do?" And he said, "No, in the schut of your Torah." I said, "In the schut of the Torah, that's something else. The gamri. The schut of the Torah is something else. You can have the schut of the Torah, and that brings all the yeshuot." So the tzaddikim were mamshich the yeshuot in the divrei Torah. When you would come to the tzaddik and you needed a miracle, you needed kids, you needed parnasah or something, he would say a ma'amar, and inside that he would include the inyan that you need. He would malbish the bracha in the Torah. The schut of the Torah would give the bracha. B'ezrat Hashem. So here it says that what they do, they cook the fish in the same oven together. Binita de itva behade bisra. When it says binita de itva, what is binita dag? Does it say over the itve? The itwe. Sorry, it was just roasted. I think it means the itwe behade bisra. So they roasted them together in the same oven. So there's the smell of the fish that's going to the smell of the meat. Says the Gemara, Asra rava mepar zikya nemichla bikutcha. You cannot eat the fish with milk. You cannot eat the fish with milk because it has the flavor of the meat. Obviously, the meat you're not going to eat with the fish. But now if you cook, and look what it says over here, very interesting. It's coming out of big anacha over here based on the shach. That you put in the meat, you put in the fish, the smells go from one to the other. And he holds, obviously, that reichas miltahim. Or, not the chatchila, b'diavad. Meaning the chatchila, don't do it. So the chatchila, it's true that it's not going to become really taref, but if you have a choice to not to eat it, your fish is not going to go to the garbage, just don't eat with fish. Why? Because according to the opinion that the reichas milti, the meat went inside the fish. From here we see the shach, that the only reason you can't eat it with fish, is you can't eat it with milk, is because the meat went into it. But from here you see, if there is fish that doesn't have meat in it, then you're allowed to eat it with milk. From here a raya that you're allowed to eat fish and milk together. You want to eat the bagel cream cheese with the lox? Every time you always ask, is it mutar, is it mutar? You ever ask the question?
I heard it wasn't mutar.
Huh?
I heard it wasn't mutar.
Very nice. From here the shach says it's mutar. Look what the Gemara says. Let's read it again. If you have fish that you cooked it with meat. Now we don't hold that reicha milta here, so it doesn't make a soup. If you have kosher and non-kosher, your kosher is still kosher. Don't throw it in the garbage. But you shouldn't do that lichatchila. B'diavad, don't throw in the garbage. A $20 piece of meat, don't throw in the garbage. But if you put fish and meat in the oven, or if you put bread and you put meat in the oven, so what happens? If we say that the smell is something, so the flavor, the smell of the meat is going to go inside the bread, and you're going to throw your bread in the garbage. You're not going to throw it in the garbage. Just don't eat it with fish. So don't eat it with cheese. So we're going to say that lichatchila you shouldn't, because we say recha milta lichatchila. Same thing with the fish and the meat. You have fish and meat. What happens? The flavor, according to Rav, the smell goes into the meat, into the fish. Now the fish is what? It's a meaty fish. So you can't eat it with cheese. But that means, do the diuk. In general, that means you're allowed to eat fish with milk. From here, the Shach says a raya that when the Beit Yosef said that fish and that milk and fish is dangerous, it's a ta'ut sofer. From here we say, even though it's written in some kadmonim, and there's maybe an inyan to be machmir, I'm just telling you that the pashtanim, they have over here a very good raya from the Gemara, unless you explain the Gemara a different way, that fish and milk is mutar.
That's according to the Ashkenazim.
Shach.
According to the Shach, yes.
The
The Sfaradim would not eat. In Morocco, ayush or ayochlim. It's a sugya. I personally don't eat. I personally don't do it because I don't need to. Like,
But fish and meat is strict.
so that's why also, look what the Gemara said over here. According to the Gemara we just read over here, there's no problem. The Gemara just said there's no
Only
problem.
shum sakan.
Yeah, it's only the problem is to eat the milk with it, but you cannot eat the fish. Well, that's what the Gemara says next. That you can't eat it bikutra. Mar barabashia marafilu bemincha nam yasra. Don't eat the fish at all. Even if you're just going to put salt in the fish, don't eat the fish. Don't eat that fish. Why? Mishum dekashya lerecha vidvar acher. It's bad for a bad smell from the breath, according to the Mary, and it's bad for tzarat. It's dangerous. It's not healthy. And by the way, some say that's only for the reach, but if you actually mix them together, it's even bigger. It's a bigger problem. So here, the reach, according to here, the reach, even though we're paskin, that the reach is not minta here. Even if you go according to the opinion that smell is nothing, because of the danger, the sakana of eating fish and meat together, so we're going to say even the smell is going to be, you're going to put in the garbage and you're going to eat it. Kol sheken, not to mix them together. By the way, that's the why, always, there's aracha, it's called ma'im emsaim. People don't know this aracha, but if you eat fish before you want to eat your meat, which happens to you every Friday night, you need to wash your fingers, you need to rinse out your mouth, and you need to eat something as well. Eat something that will gather all the saliva. When you eat something, you don't realize that you're actually gathering all the saliva in the mouth. So any residue of fish that's in your mouth, you're going to gather it and it's going to be swallowed. You should drink something that's called ma'im emsaim. Now, you don't need to do this at pialacha if you use it with a fork and knife. So back in the days, they eat with the fingers, so it's really scared of the oils on the fingers. But if you're eating with a fork and knife, you don't have to do that. But some kept the minhag to do it no matter what, and it's a good thing to get used to doing it because one day you're going to touch it by accident. You're not going to realize you ate your fish, you're going to eat your meat together, you're going to touch both, and it could be a sakana. Just want to read.
So in the oven, as long as they're each independently covered, they can still coexist?
Well, by the way, that's what you have every time that you go on the airplane. Every time you go on an airplane, what you do is that it's a taref oven, and they could be even cooking taref at the same time inside. We double wrap it just for extra precaution. Double wrapped, but even one wrapping is fine. But if you do a double wrap, so what is this? No air is going to get inside. So what is it? Just heat. There's no heat. Now, of course, if there's a dirty rack and there's some like sauce of the meat from the last cooking, so that could actually maybe even go through the tin foil and even go to your meats. I'm not saying halacha right now, I'm just saying from memory what you have to be careful about. But if, let's say they have your own tray and your own thing, so now and you double wrap it, so there's no problem. There's no problem to use a goyish oven if you know how to use it. If you know the arachot, you're only machmir when you don't know aracha. When you know aracha, you don't have to be so machmir. There's a lot of things. I want to just do the Mishnah not to be too late for tomorrow. We'll just do quickly the Mishnah, very easy. Chamisha dvarim ba'im betuma. Ve'enan nichalin betuma. There are 5 korbanot that we bring even if there's a state of impurity on the korban or the kohen. What are they? Ha'omer. Omer is a certain korban of barley that we bring on the second day of Pesach. Ushte alechem. On Atzeret, which is Shavuot, we bring 2 loaves of bread. Interesting. On Pesach there's no bread, and on Atzeret there's dafka bread. Ve'lechem apanim. Every Shabbat the Kohanim bring lechem apanim to the Beit HaMikdash, and even if the bread is impure, we still bring it because these things don't need to be eaten. Zifre shalmi tzibur. We're actually talking about the shlamim that is on Pesach. It's called that is on Atzeret, that is on Shavuot. There is a zidfe shalmi, a korban shlamim for the community, which is on Atzeret. Seireh cheshe chodashim. There is a chatat that we bring on Rosh Chodesh. It's a seir, and that we bring it a Pesach, and also a Pesach sheba betuma nechad betuma shelo ba mitchinato ena leachila. The Pesach is actually eaten in a state of impurity, because the whole reason we bring Korban Pesach is to eat. I'll explain. The 4 things we said above are korbanot that need to be brought in. They don't need to be eaten. B'diavad. So therefore they can be brought in a state of impurity, because a communal korban pushes away tuma. Now the Korban Pesach is meant to be eaten. So not only it pushes away the tumah, if the whole community is tameh, actually allowed to eat it. That's what we spoke about a few times, that today we're actually allowed to bring a Korban Pesach. There's no problem. We're actually allowed to bring it even if we're all in a state of impurity. I'll just read one more quickly. The Gemara says, but the Mishnah says chamisha. Chamisha nemaute mai. Nemaute chagigat chamisha asar. So remember we said that on every chag, there is actually another Korban to bring a chagiga on the 15th. A chagiga is brought on the first day of Pesach, and the first day of Sukkot, and the first day of Shavuot. That's called chagiga. We don't bring that in a state of impurity. The sanka dat chamina kivan de korban sibuhu ukviane moed titche tuma kamashmanan kivan de ile tashnumin kol shiva lo dachya Shabbat. The Shabbat lo dachya Lodachya tuma. So this korban, which is on the 15th, which is the Chagigah of the 15th, well, you might have thought that since it's a korban for the Chag, it pushes off tuma. No, it doesn't. Since there's tashlumin, there's no tashlumin of certain korbanot, the omer. But here you can actually do it for the next 7 days. Since you can do it after you bring it tomorrow in a state of non-purity, even if it's not Yom Tov, so we don't let you bring it on Yom Tov. We don't let you bring it on Shabbos, and if it doesn't push off Shabbos, it also doesn't push off tuma.
That's the egg we do on Pesach.
The Chagigah, exactly right. We'll stop here. We'll do that tomorrow. Be'uchim to you.